Ohio State, Washington is now final. Ohio State gets off to a slow start, takes care of Washington on their first Big Ten game of the year and their first road game of the year. And what was, I guess, not a pretty game in the first half, but Ohio State took care of business in the second half. I'm Chris. That's Ron. Ron, we got it done.
Best thing about being 4-0.
There's a chance to go 5-0, 100%. Fun game in the second half, not very fun in the first half. A lot of things that I think kind of held this team back, and I don't think it was player-wise, but I'm excited to kind of unpack this game with you because we knew, or we figured at least, that this had a chance for one half to be a little bit of a tough game, a little bit of a slow start. It ended up being that. But look, Matt Patricia, the defense, they hunkered down. Ohio State got the second half rolling, took care of business. Just your overall thoughts on the game, then we'll start to kind of unpeel layer by layer.
I feel like this game was frustrating, but Buckeye fans have to be positive coming away from this game because it feels like most of the things the Buckeyes were doing were self-inflicted and things that are correctable. The Buckeyes go out and get off to a slow start in this Washington game, but they end up getting the victory 24-6. They pick things up in the second half, and it feels like the Buckeyes have been doing this week in and week out, and they get off to these slow starts, and it's like, oh, wait, we have Jeremiah Smith, the best player in the country. Oh, Bo Jackson, he's our best running back. We should probably play him. It took the Buckeyes, it felt like the coaching staff came out sleepwalking a little bit, and the team kind of took on that identity, and you just wonder, are the Buckeyes going to be able to flip that switch consistently throughout the year? Because most times you say you can't always rely on flipping that switch, but it felt like the Buckeyes sleptwalk through most of the season last year, despite having the most talented team in the country, lose that game to Oregon in a close battle, lose at the end of the year against the team up north, and then they just flip the switch into Death Star mode like they've had that in them the entire time. And the Buckeyes seem to be playing with their food week in and week out, and you just hope at the end of the season they're going to be able to turn it on like they have been in the second quarters of games so far this season. And you just worry, do they get in a game that looks like a Michigan game? And that's exactly how the first half of this game started. Do they get into one of those positions where they don't flip the switch, or they do flip the switch and nothing comes on?
You know, it's fascinating. I do hear you. I think I did have some of those concerns maybe during the first half. But then as the second half went on, Ron, you know what this felt like to me? This felt like how teams win in the NFL. This felt like how really good teams win in the NFL, right? Like this was, and I think because like we're Ohio State fans and we cover Ohio State, and like we've seen Ryan Day, kind of some of the offensive explosions, we're used to just going, BTA the entire game. And when teams don't do that, it feels like they sleepwalk. But this feels like Ryan Day and what you called what? And not a program. What was your word for it?
An organization. Everyone likes the word program, and it feels like Ryan Day is running an organization around here because it feels more like an NFL building. And he warned us at the beginning of the week, my nickname for Ryan Day before the national championship, it used to be Lion Day because you could never believe anything that he said in the press conference. He won a national championship and just started telling you exactly how it is. And one of the things that he said, and Buckeye fans were complaining earlier in the week, he referenced the Texas game and the game plan being similar. Just get out here and get a win. And it feels like they're protecting Julian Sayin. They're protecting a young roster that has 8 new starters on defense. And their goal, as Ryan Day said, going into the Texas game, just win, baby. And it felt like they came in with that same mentality of, hey, I don't care what the trolls and the lunatic fringe on Twitter have to say about how this game looks. Yes, the turnovers are inexcusable, but at the end of the day, they're going out there and trying to win, and they're not trying to put up style points. And in years past, style points mattered when you had a smaller selection as far as people who could contend for a national championship. With a 12-team playoff, what do you need style points for? The logo and the record are going to carry Ohio State to the playoffs into eternity.
And we're the defending national champions. And
that didn't help before.
Well, no, I'm just in the 12th team, it's always going to help.
Yeah.
In 12th team, it's always going to help. But when I watch this team, it's like Ryan Day is okay with letting this defense kind of suffocate things. And he figures with this conservative game plan against most teams, we're going to be able to score at least 24 points. We're going to be able to score at least 20 points. And Ryan Day is kind of calling games with the understanding that as long as we play this game clean, the other team is not going to be able to score more than 17 points. So I don't need an offensive explosion. Is it nice if it happens? Absolutely. But I can call a game plan from the standpoint of, okay, I just need to get to 24 points. And with a conservative game plan, we're going to score 24 points because other teams can't score more than 17. Ron, when you and I started on Bleacher Report, I believe 2 or 3 years ago, we always said the magic number was 17. As long as, because that's how Ryan Day wants to play. He wants to get to 17, wants to get to 20, like he's an NFL coach. Ryan Day's not pivoting off that. It was kind of bothersome today because we have a Jeremiah Smith. And like when you have a player like that, a player that is so transcendent, you want them to get as many touches as possible. And I think the best thing that happened was suffocating Washington in the first half. They had some success, but I never felt like it was, sustainable scoring potential. And then the second half, it's like, okay, we can call it a little bit conservative while also making sure the best player in America is getting the football. And he was. And so when you go out there and you're the other team, I want every team we face to have to accept and acknowledge the fact that 4 is going to get 10 plus targets, and that's going to dictate things.
Chris, it's inevitable. Death, taxes, and Jeremiah Smith.
Bingo.
And every time things start to get spooky for the Buckeyes, you're like, when are you going to throw it to 4?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and even at some points, I was like, you guys have 17 out there too. The NFL is in love with them, but in love with both of these wide receivers. And it's like, why do we wait so long to remember? It's like we're almost taking it easy on teams. It's like you can finish the challenge on All-Star, Rookie, or Pro, and the Buckeyes are like,
right,
put it on Heisman, line it up. Like the Buckeyes are making it harder than it needs to be, and the red zone struggles. How do you clean it up? I don't know. Give the ball to the best player in the country.
Bingo. You ever played your little homie in basketball and you're like, I'm not going to drive it. I'm just going to shoot jumpers. And then like the score is like, 8-4. And it's like, all right, I'm driving now. Let me go win the game. That's how they use Jeremiah Smith. They use Jeremiah Smith, like the big homie hooping against the little homie. And again, like at the end of the first half, it was vintage Ryan Day. Clear out. We're going to throw the drag to Jeremiah Smith because we know that nobody on Washington's team wants to tackle him, and that 100% ended up being the case. And it was kind of like the prequel for what we saw in the second half, right? For last offensive play of the first half, Jeremiah Smith touchdown. And the second half, how did we open up the game, Ron? Or the half, Ron?
With an explosive play.
Straight to 4. Give it to 4. So, this it's funny, and I hate doing this. I told myself I was not going to do it today, but I'm fired up. I think the quote-unquote liability on this entire Ohio State team is the personnel decision and the play calling, because the talent is there.
Absolutely. It felt like the Buckeyes were I sent a text out and it said, it feels like this team is the only team that can stop this team. It
Correct.
feels like the Buckeyes were playing Ohio State this weekend, not Washington. At no point did I feel like Washington was doing anything schematically or athletically that the Buckeyes could not handle. It felt like the Buckeyes were getting in their own way. And I think that started even before the lack of touches for Jeremiah Smith, with who they choose to start at running back, because we said weeks ago that this debate for running back 1 was completely over because Bo Jackson had done enough to win that job, and they trot CJ Donaldson out to start the game. Chris, I don't know how many times I have to say this. Bo knows. That is the guy that needs to be playing for the Buckeyes, and it feels like this team has started out slow in 3 out of 4 games because they're not playing the best running back on the team. And we talk about how the running back and the tight end are the best friends of a young quarterback. They're doing everything in their power to protect Julian Sayin on the road in his first start and keep him in the game and engaged. And I think the best way to do that would be, I don't know, maybe putting the best running back on the team out there to start the game. And I don't know how much longer we can play these games. I like CJ Donaldson. I think he adds something to this offense. But if you're a power back and you're not getting yardage in short yards, why are you out there? It feels like he's running too high for how big he is. Bo Jackson, the balance that he displayed this week, the vision, the speed, the burst. I don't know how you can continue to keep him on the bench in scenarios for anything other than him needing to catch his breath.
It's unbelievable, Ron. I think everybody in the country knows he's the best running back on this roster. I think everybody in that stadium knew it. I think everybody at home knowing it. You can see the talent. It's so undeniable with Bo. And I hope that this week we get more answers on what else he needs to prove to get on the field more. Because is it what were promises made to the other 2 backs? Because look, I was high on Peoples heading into the year. You and I talked about that. I was high on Peoples. I was higher on Bo. And I feel like we started to see the glimpses and started to hear about it in the spring. And we're seeing it now. Every time that those three guys are out there, one of them looks really different. And we are at a luxury for a program to be able to talk about this and complain about this after a very good win over Washington, right? But at some point, we're going to face better teams, and Bo needs to get the ball more. The offense is at its very best when Bo's out there and when Jeremiah's getting the ball. Point blank, period. It's no discussion. It was nice to see him. I honestly, like, my heart rate goes down when he's in the game because I know no matter what, he's going to give me 5, 6, 7 every trip. He's going to keep me on schedule. And that was important for me. Today, when he was out there running the ball, he kept me on schedule. And then in the back of my mind, I also know, okay, not only is he going to keep me on schedule, but he's got the burst to get me 40, 50, 60 if that second layer opens up. And that is comfortable for me. And the other two running backs don't provide that. This is a lot like Arvo Reese a year ago. The difference is Cody Simon is better at his job than C.J. Donaldson and Peoples are at their job. Point blank. So I'm excited about Bo. I hope that this is a message not just to us, but to the coaching staff. Play Bo, get Jeremiah the ball. Now, look, if you want to win a bunch of these games 24-6, awesome. I won't complain because it's a luxury. Again, we're talking about a true NFL kind of team right here. But if you want to win dominantly like this, but maybe double the score, play Bo, get the ball to Jeremiah. It's incredible what he's been able to do as a true freshman, and I'm excited for him as the year continues to move on.
Absolutely. One of the most dynamic weapons that this Buckeyes offense has to offer. And you feel like this coaching staff just has to rip the Band-Aid off at this point. And even in post-game warm-ups, all of the text went out from the reporters that were on the sidelines. Bo Jackson was repping with the ones. People expected him to take the bulk share of the carries despite not coming out as the first running back on the field. But I'm willing to go out and say we have enough data points at this point to say not playing Bo Jackson to start the game is holding this offense back, and it's not something that can continue against better opponents.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the red zone offense for a little bit and kind of get some of your thoughts and takeaways. Obviously, like early in the game, getting stopped on 4th down didn't feel good. It's funny. I know people like CJ for the short yardage stuff. I would have loved to see Bo out there in that situation, but I get it. It's, whatever. I'm not going to beat that one. But thoughts on Brian Hartline's and Ryan Day's offensive game plan in the red zone, Ron?
I don't know how much I'm willing to put on Brian Hartline immediately, but it's starting to get to the point where it's undeniable that we're seeing it week in and week out, and we can't keep watching the All-22 and go, well, Brian Hartline's calling good plays. Julian Sayin's just not seeing it. Well, at some point, you have to acknowledge what your quarterback's not seeing and find plays that are more efficient for what you're asking him to do. We've watched the All-22 now 3 weeks in a row, and I'm sure we're going to see the same thing where there are lack of execution on the offensive line and Julian not seeing open receivers when he has them in the red zone. I would be willing to bet we're going to see the same thing. But at what point do you as a play caller have to do something better to put your quarterback in the best position, whether that's less predictable runs? I mean, have we thrown out of a set? Finally, we did a play action in the red zone where Nate Roberts was on the field, but it feels like every time you see 4 tight ends on the field, you motion an H-back across. It's like, I wonder what they're going to do. Run directly behind this H-back and fullback? It's becoming too predictable and vanilla when they're not doing other things in the red zone. At some point, they have to figure out what works best for Julian, because how many weeks can you say, well, your quarterback's just not seeing it, and you not pivot and find something that allows them to have success in the red zone?
I will say late, I did like the play to C.J. Donaldson, like kind of, the throw game does look like it's improving in the red zone. Can I say that? Is that fair to say? The run game does feel too predictable. Feels like there's like less creativity in the run game, which we shouldn't be shocked by, I guess. Because, obviously Chip Kelly gets run out for the pass game, but Chip Kelly's run game is unbelievable. But it does feel like we should be at least a little bit more creative in red zone run game. And I'm excited to see what the All-22 says. But you're right. No, it's frustrating because people don't know, Ron, this Washington defense is amongst the very worst in Power 5 in the red zone, like amongst the very worst. So this should have been a game where we walked away feeling like, Brian and Ryan have kind of cured the red zone hiccup. And the red zone hiccup has kind of been a thing that's kind of plagued Ryan Day's career, I guess, like since he took over at Ohio State. But it feels like they have the personnel to be better this year. And again, just more creativity, right? Like that's like I'm not asking for the world. I'm not asking for a red zone or wildcat package. I'm asking for slightly more creativity.
Ryan Day's favorite saying, it's born out of his red zone struggles, and it's we want to be able to run the ball when everybody in the stadium knows that we're running the ball, but it feels like they're putting the play up on the scoreboard at this point too, and letting them know that they're telegraphing these runs that are just so obvious. And it's if you're going to do that, you have to be physical at the point of attack and be able to push them back. And we keep running off the right side of this offensive line in the red zone, which is so perplexing to me, because I think one of the main reasons that we've been having struggles in the red zone, when you talk about these run game breakdowns, you see 77 looking the wrong way. Integra Shabola, the right guard for Ohio State, has not been having a great time in the red zone for the Buckeyes, and that continues to be a sore spot for this defense. It's such a spoiled take by the Buckeyes. I feel like we've had such a negative tone towards this show, but I feel like when you're an Ohio State fan and you're watching these games, the national media is watching it from an upset perspective. Ohio State's grading it from if we were playing the national championship today, would this work? And that's the standard that Buckeye fans watch the games from. And I feel like that's what we're questioning it from. The Buckeyes went out there and did exactly what they needed to do in a hostile environment, in a ruckus crowd, and still find a way to win. But it's just still each week you're looking at, can they perfect these things that you know that they're going to need to do once they reach the playoffs and they're playing the elite teams in the sport?
Again, this is a fantastic win. We are obviously from a standpoint of like we're expecting or hoping for a back-to-back. This is a very good win against a very good Washington team on the road, hostile environment. I do want to flip to the defense, dog, because oh my goodness, to lose Jim Knowles and upgrade with Matt freaking Patricia and be told for an entire offseason how awful of a hire this was. This is the best hire in the entire sport. Like Matt Patricia is worth 5 stars in gold. Like that is what he's worth. He's been phenomenal. The plan for Arvo Reese has been phenomenal. I think Arvo Reese has been the best defender outside of Caleb Downs on this team. He's been fantastic. And Ryan, you know what we had today that I can't remember the last time I've said this? We had a defensive end with 3 sacks in one game.
Going absolutely crazy. Caden Curry, I didn't want to say it. I was watching the game, and you ever have those thoughts about your team? It's like, I can't believe I even thought that. That's a little crazy. I won't even say it on the timeline.
Bosa.
And then I get into the space, and everybody's like, he looks like a Bosa out there.
Yeah.
But you see Michael Thomas tweeted out, and I'm like, all right, well, he said it, I can say it.
If he can say it, I can say it.
You played with him. He looks like a Bosa out there. And to think the Buckeyes, he felt like the forgotten man in the offseason. Everybody was so enamored with Bo Atkinson, the transfer out of North Carolina, 7.5 sacks. And the Buckeyes struggled with getting after the quarterback last year. And we thought, oh, this would be the answer. Nope. Caden Curry just decided to flip a switch and become one of the most destructive players in the sport, adding 3 sacks. And just the game plan that this defensive line had, you saw the mush rushes multiple times where they're just keeping the offensive lineman in front of them at arm's length. So the second that the quarterback scrambles, they're able to get off their block and get after him. And that proved to be so successful. And it seems like Matt Patricia has had an answer for every matchup that the Buckeyes have had. And it sure does help when you have an Arvell Reese, and Caleb Downs, and Caden Curry at your disposal as far as your talent advantage out there. And you mix it with the genius that Matt Patricia is. It's going to be a long season for teams that have to play the Buckeyes.
You know, it's fascinating. You could feel Washington trying to be hyper aware and avoid Arvell Reese ruining their game. Like you could feel that from their offensive perspective. And in doing so, they let Caden Curry have 11 total tackles. For comparison, and that's a defensive end. For comparison, Ron, the most total tackles in the game was Alex McLaughlin with 13. He's a safety. A defensive end had 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 9 solo tackles against a mobile, super athletic quarterback, probably the second most athletic quarterback Ohio State will play all year. This was a big-time game from the defense, a big-time game from Matt Patricia, and what Matt Patricia is allowing everybody else to do on the offense side of the ball is figure it out at your own pace. I know it doesn't feel good as a fan perspective to watch, but Ohio State on offense and Brian Hartline on offense gets to figure it out at his own pace because Matt Patricia's unit is the best unit in America. And that's what dynasties are built on. That's the best unit in America.
That has to be a great feeling as a Buckeye fan, because if I want something to be wrong with this this team, I want it to be the offense and Jeremiah Smith and the endless 5-star receivers and the stable of running backs and the super genius play caller and Ryan Day heading the team. It's just like, if it's going to be the thing that the Buckeyes need to correct, they should be feeling good right now, because they should have all the confidence in the world that Ryan Day is going to be able to figure it out. Because the only time that we've watched the Buckeyes struggle on the offensive side of the ball was when Six was the quarterback. And I would say that Julian Sayin is exceptionally more talented than Six was. And I don't want to be the body language expert here, but one of the things that used to frustrate Buckeye fans in years past when they would struggle in games, it was the body language of their quarterback. And they don't call Julian Sayin J. Cool for nothing, because he was deadpan the whole game, like he wasn't even being challenged despite the stakes during the game. At no point did his emotion level seem to change. He was deadpan in the face the entire game, like a guy that said that had been there and done it before, yet they seem to be treating him as someone that they need to coddle and protect. And I'm ready for them to find the balance with this quarterback situation, because it feels like we're seeing a lot of Kyle McCord game plans. And when CJ Stroud started as a true freshman, not as a true freshman, as a redshirt freshman, you saw him throw the ball almost 60 times a game for the first 4 games. So to see them have the defense that's able to support a young quarterback and bring them along at the pace that they wanted to, I'm interested to see what the ceiling looks like for Julian Sayin when they finally do take the training wheels off him, because the talent is there.
Yeah, we are getting there. I believe he had over 30 dropbacks today for 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, kept the ball clean. And I think that's important for Ryan Day to continue to kind of loosen up more and more and more, is that number next to the INT being 0. I think being 0 on the road, I think Ryan Day can take this back home and say, look, we dropped back more than 30 times. He didn't throw the ball away at a hostile environment. We're ready to give him more and more and more. And there has to be a ramp up, because I think that Penn State is a very good football team, and you want to make sure your ramp up is there so that you feel good with the option of opening it up by the time you get there. You don't want the first time you open it up against a really good team to be in a spot where you absolutely 100% need it. But we can all acknowledge that this team, to get to their very best, needs a version of Julian Sayin that's opening it up, because opening it up means more opportunities for the best player in the entire country to get the ball, right? Because, like, here we go. Dropping back 28, 30 times, cool. What happens if you need to now cover Jeremiah Smith for 30 to 35 routes? He's going to get his. And if you want to stop him from getting his and you want to sell out, so be it. There's a bunch of other weapons here. Ennis, Tate, and Claire all, I thought, were more impactful than their stat sheet shows. And they did try to take away Jeremiah Smith, and he still had 8 catches for 81 yards. So the more you drop back, the more number 4 gets to run routes. And the more number 4 gets to run routes, the more we put up explosive plays against really good football teams.
The one thing that surprised me with Julian Sayin this game, it felt like something he put on display for a lot of Buckeye fans that may not have been aware of this. I had the opportunity to go to fall camp and go to a couple practices, and I sent out a text and a tweet to a couple people that said, man, Julian can really scoot. And you heard all about Lincoln Keenhold's athleticism. Julian Sayin is not Lamar Jackson, obviously, but he is not a statue back there. And I think his athleticism flashed this game in his ability to escape pressure. And we talked about this last year. The difference between Six and Will Howard was, even when Will Howard would get flustered or get flushed out of the pocket or have to move in the pocket, it felt like he always made a good decision, whether at keeping his eyes down the field, finding a chance to run, or just throwing it away. And Ryan Day loved that it wasn't just I'm going to throw it up down there and it potentially cause a turnover-worthy play. And it felt like Julian was able to use his athleticism to escape and extend the play. And it may not have always resulted in a positive play, but he avoided the negative play. And I thought that was huge in his progression.
You know what his athleticism is, Ron? And everyone we talked about, it's Bryce Young. It's Bryce Young.
It's about that.
It's Bryce Young. He's not always going to run to create for his feet, but he's capable of doing so. A little bit slighter frame. It's like Baker Mayfield, albeit a lot skinnier than Baker Mayfield. But the same way, I'm going to use my feet to pick up 5, 6, 7. But for the most part, my feet are going to be to extend the play so I can throw the ball down the field. We saw it a couple times leaving the pocket, being able to, find somebody on a bust. So that's what I think his athleticism is. I think it does kind of get understated because, first of all, he's a smaller athlete, and not that he's like 5'8". I never subscribed to that theory, but a smaller athlete in terms of like thinness. And he's not a very aggressive runner. Like I never want Julian Sayin running in between the numbers. Like if you're going to scramble, get outside the number so you can like step out of bounds. You're a step, but definitely more athletic than I think people give him credit for.
Yeah, that was an argument in the halftime space about the red zone play calling, and they're like, "Run a quarterback draw," and I'm like, "No, I do not want my 6'1", 200-pound, 5-star quarterback laying under Big Ten defensive tackles."
Yeah,
no,
this is not a video game. This is a real quarterback that's gonna have to put his nose into something. And again, like for the offense, it's not a offense predicated around quarterback run, so I don't need that. Like I'd rather throw 3 fades to Jeremiah Smith than run 1 quarterback draw with Julian Sayin.
Absolutely, Chris. I put out a tweet right before halftime, and I said we're going to learn a lot about this staff and this team in the next 2.5 quarters, and it felt like we learned this is a team organization with championship pedigree. They didn't seem to waver. It never felt like anybody on that sideline ever had a doubt in their ability to go out and execute. And it feels like the Buckeyes have already been tested on the road against a Big Ten opponent. They've already beat the former number 1 team in the country in the Texas Longhorns in an opening game of the season. Are we reaching the point that the best team that the Buckeyes will see this year are the Buckeyes themselves? Because they seem like the only team that can get in the way of this team.
Yep. Only team that could beat them is them. They're incredible everywhere. Again, I think the only weakness might be at right guard, but even, right guard down the stretch, I feel like they kind of push things around. Excited to see the film, but there is the ceiling is the floor. Like this is a huge team. Like this is an incredible team with incredible talent everywhere. And the only thing that I have questions about are the coaching staff. And kind of will they shoot themselves in the foot? Because I think that when the right group is out there and the right game plan is out there, I think this team can beat anybody. And you look across college football, and there's not a team to beat until you look in that mirror. You are the team to beat. And because of that, yes, I think that they are the single thing that can stop them is them.
And to piggyback off of that, I don't think they're going to be able to stop them because the Buckeyes seem to be so talented, and we've watched them take the training wheels off of Julian Sayin in the Grambling game, and we've watched what this offense can look like when they're really letting it go. We've watched this defense be able to stop dynamic rushers. We've talked in years past about how much of a challenge that these Russian quarterbacks have presented for Ohio State. They've done a great job against Parker Navarro and then Damon Williams in this week. You've seen Coach Locke brilliantly manage a 2-headed monster last year in Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. And Brian Hartline is the offensive coordinator because of the position coach that he's been. I have no doubt that these wide receivers, when it comes time for them to be big time, they're going to be available. I have no doubts about this staff figuring it out. It's just about, it seems like this staff is going to learn and prepare this team at their own pace. And at this point, who am I to argue with a national championship staff?
Do you want to guess what Damon Williams' final total on rushing yards was?
Oh, I haven't even looked at the box score. 27 yards.
Throw a negative before it.
Sheesh. Was it negative 27? Was I exactly right on the number?
It was negative 28 last time I checked.
Sheesh. It was negative 28. 13 carries for negative 28 yards, an average of negative 2.2 yards. The Buckeyes completely get after it today with 6 sacks and 9 tackles for a loss. And I feel like it answers a question that Buckeye fans have had for the past couple of years, and I feel like it probably tanked JTT and Jack Sawyer's draft stock, because it's like, is this a scheme issue, or are these guys not able to get after the passer? And it seems like anytime they're asked to pin their ears back, they're able to cause problems for the quarterback. Anytime they're asked to stay in their rush lanes and maintain a rushing quarterback, they're racking up tackles for loss. The Buckeyes get it done today with 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. You have to be impressive and realize this is a scheme thing, and the Buckeyes go out there and do whatever they decide to do when they go out and play an opponent. And you can't even troll as a Michigan fan and say, unless they play Michigan, because for the past 2 years, this defense has showed up for every single game.
Bingo. Bingo. Last question before we get out of here. If Penn State beats Oregon today, is Ohio State still your number 1 team in the country?
They're always number 1 in my heart, so they'll always be number 1 on my ballot. I don't care what Penn State does. You're going to have to show me. When's the last time James Franklin beat Ryan Day?
Never.
Exactly. So you know how this thing ends, Chris. It's always go Bucks. And of course, OH.
I-O.